Dr. Okengwu, what's your quick comment on the fact that by October, the president had appeared to lay before the National Assembly the estimates for next year?
Yeah, I think it's a good development. But you know, usually I like to take my things a little bit out of the box. You know, there are things that should guide the budget being developed. I think it's about 14 steps when you talk about what they call the midterm revenue expenditure or framework. When you talk about, you know, what you call the midterm fiscal framework. You see, when you have done these things, we should be worried or excited. Is this budget that we presented predicated on a midterm revenue framework? If the answer is yes, then we should be celebrating. But if you now have a midterm expenditure framework that had created a lot of issues in the National Assembly 1 week before the budget was now presented, then I think the answer will be that we need to look at it again. We should be able to first and foremost find out what is foundational to preparing a budget. And what is foundational to preparing a budget is not your midterm expenditure framework. It is your midterm revenue framework. Are you following me?
I'm listening.
The midterm expenditure framework. The midterm expenditure framework is actually the test step in a budgeting process. Yes. The first one is a midterm revenue framework that is followed by your midterm fiscal, you know, framework. Before you now get to where you now talk about your midterm expenditure framework. You see, I think what should happen and what we are about to do, let's even get a little bit more elementary. Because when people don't understand what this budget thing is, such a big deal. You know, budget is supposed to be, like what the Senate says, you know, estimates. But better put, you know, what you can call it is financial plans that you have couched in figures. But what should worry us in Nigeria is where are we deriving the revenue for our budgeting? Which is where all this bolaboli about 75% or 80% benchmark comes in. That should worry you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because right now in Nigeria, there are primarily two sources, you know, that now fit the federation account from where we derive, you know, our budgets. And the first one now comes from, you know, what you can call your crude oil sales. But a lot of people also do not understand that it is not only the crude oil sales that generates revenue for the federation account. There are also royalties. There are also taxes. There are also what you call your IGR.
Yeah. The cost of
do you understand what I'm saying? Which is where you now got all these, your 10, you know, trillion that government is now saying from its own share of the 10 trillion, you know, is now projecting 3.9 trillion. You know, as revenue, it can be able to now, you know, put inside this budgeting process. So you see, when we do not understand, and we are talking about arguments to and fro, a typical budgeting process should take at least 14 stages. And I've just mentioned, you know, 3 or 4 of them for you, before you now get the assent of the president. And right now, please, I think we should be able to now also look at where we are, what we are trying to posit as a nation. We are saying we are in a transformation. What should be asking ourselves is, I thought that should be the second question. If the timing of a budget is right, is the content of a budget also in sync with the socio-economic realities of our times?
Is it?
It's not.
Why so?
Okay. Now, you have a country that has what you can call a national calamity. And this national calamity didn't just besiege us. NIMET had come out to say we had warned everybody who was supposed to warn. Okay? The Cameroonians had said we gave enough notices that we are going to release. I mean, they didn't just start releasing water. It's always been released. Probably because of other factors that have now gotten into this mix. Has the budget been able to capture this mood? Is there anything in that budget that reflects that we are ready by the end of the fiscal year, the 2013 year, we are now able to now say we can be able to mitigate this thing when it comes, you know, again, which is actually...
A lot of people actually feel that some of the policies enunciated are actually counterproductive to that.
Because you do not have a mid-term revenue framework that has been thought through. This is where the argument is.
You want me to read quickly
no,
what
okay.
the government statement?
No, it's okay. I can tell you certainly. I think there's something they call the vulture theory. I'm not going to take a lot of time. The vulture theory, yes, it's an African theory. The vulture says, any which way my wife is pregnant, I am happy. There's a baby, celebration. The baby dies, celebration. Okay?
How? How do you celebrate
because the baby is food for the vulture. You understand? But I want to try to use that to try to capture what it is that is going on here. You see, if we sell oil at $148, it's our money. We'll sell it for $75. It is our money. If we benchmark against at $60 and then sell at $80, you still have what you call your excess crude account. It is still your money. Do you understand what I'm saying here? I think the issue here is not that when you now benchmark against $75 or $65, you're going to now be exporting your oil at $64. You're going to be selling, at the international market prices. And whatever the excesses are will now enter into your crude, excess crude account. Now, the argument of the House of Reps or the National Assembly is that the crude account has not been, well managed and prudently managed. It is not as if they do not see the need, for benchmarking. They are also saying, okay, instead of now getting this 1-point-something trillion in deficit, if you now increase this thing to $80, you might be able to now reduce deficit by 50%.
Yeah.
Now, my brother, the question anybody will be asking is that in the past 5 years, have you run any budget to its hilt? This last budget, I mean, all of us are going about this budget as if we've had, closures, 100%, 95% closures on our budgeting systems. And which is why I'm saying to you that for us we should be able to dig a little deeper, to find out where, we've always gotten it wrong.
Yeah.
Because you see, in a country where everybody is going the way of petrochemicals, and remember that in mentioning the sources of income for your federation account, I mentioned IGR, which is where your non-oil exports are going to come coming in. Everything practically that we're doing today in the world is all about petrochemicals. And the people who are buying your crude are actually buying it to be able to now take the fuel, give to you, take the petrochemicals and develop their own production systems. So if you're not looking at a situation where you can be able to now value chain, okay, your production system in such a way that crude oil stops being a product, which it is now, and becomes a raw material for your industries that can now increase your IGR and your capacity, most importantly, for industrialization. This is what this budget is not capturing.
In other words, our inability to recruit product locally is still an issue.
It's a very major issue because if we had, I give a typical example now. If we had, Benga, a situation where we said out of the 2.5 million metric, 2.5 barrels of oil that we produce every day, that the Nigerian Petroleum Development Corporation, the NPDC, is now energized, okay, helped to be able to now, let them not even enter into crude sales. Let them enter into the production and value chaining of crude products all over our region. And then what they are generating as internal IGR, do you know what that would be? Do you understand what I'm saying? But we are busy running some other person's game, which is why each time I come on air and I talk about that what it is we run is economics. And all of us are busy now dancing around this economics. And nobody has been able to say, in this mid-term revenue framework that you developed, what aspects will generate jobs? Today you have issues in power. Today you have issues in agriculture. Now the minister comes out and says to you, we are going to be giving you hybrid this, hybrid that, hybrid that. We should have been getting that information and announcement from the research institute, who will now come out and say to you, we have the capacity and capability to be able to give you 10 million metric tons of improved seeds based on the funding that we have gotten from government. These are what the issues are.
I get some of the, I just didn't want to get lost. You have taken us so far into some of the issues. 2030 budget, fiscal consolidation with inclusive growth. We need to look at those critical points that will not make the government objective realizable. If you listen to the debate that has been going on in the National Assembly, in the two chambers, a lot of emphasis have been laid on the fact that the 2012 budget has suffered a lot of hiccup. That it is on the 2012 budget that the 2013 budget is predicated as a continuous process. And if you are predicating the 2013 budget on a budget that has suffered a lot of hiccup in terms of implementation, haven't you prepared the ground for an eventual failure?
That's what I'm saying to you. That, you see, there are three things everybody mounts in Nigeria. And each time we say it with so much nostalgia. We'll talk about our human capital resources. We talk about our natural resources. And nobody has ever now talked about how you're able to integrate these two things to begin to now do what you can call your rail sector or rail development process. And I do not see how this budget captures this. Because if we were talking about, developing your human capital, you will be talking about developing your skills. You'll be talking about getting your people ready to be able to now engage in things that can be able to now, first and foremost, generate production that can now encourage exports. I do not see where the budget has captured that. Okay? I do not see any program of government that has not been able to now say Nasarawa State is going to be one of the pilot states that we're going to now be looking at how we can be able to now improve the human capital to be able to now engage them in their vast land resources. Niger State has the biggest land mass in this country. I do not see any program of government that also now begins to show you that first and foremost there's a project or a program, and then the need for the human capital to be able to now fill in, this project or programs. What I rather see here is a lot of expenditure that has overhead. You see, when people hear recurrent, they think it's only all about salaries. Recurrent is not about salaries. There's a lot of overhead. There's a lot of expenditure. There's a lot of procurement. And this procurement...
Even recurrent.
A lot of it. More of it. Yeah. And let me tell you why it's even a little bit worrisome. It is not subject, to any BPP process. We can actually now spend. That's why you're seeing, newspapers reporting 1.3 billion for food, 1 point this for that, 1 point this for this. These are all, it doesn't come under your capital. So you see, I think what we need to do in this country is to be able to first and foremost take out a 6-month period and build what we can call a framework that is engaging. First and foremost, if we're talking about our rail sector, what does it entail? Everybody talks about agriculture. Agriculture is not the real sector. Agriculture might be, a way of developing your real sector. Because
the real sector will be manufacturing?
The real sector, first and foremost, will be your human capital. That's critical. The real sector will be your natural resources. That is very germane. The real sector will be the technology you're now applying to your human capital, okay, and your natural resources, to be able to now begin what you can call a demand-driven, okay, upward-moving infrastructure development program. It is only when you're able to get that foundation that you can begin to now talk about a budget of inclusive growth. Because growth means that there's a plant, or there's a building, or there's a foundation. So what are we growing on?
The other time, why I raised the critical question of when the 2012 budget will naturally terminate. The president in his budget speech admitted the fact that when budgets overlap is a problem. He said that, I'm just quoting him directly now, the continued implementation of the 2011 capital budget in the first quarter of 2012 clearly affected the implementation of the 2012 budget. Thus far, about 48.1% of the capital budget release have been utilized as of 30th September 2012. Doctor, let's look at some basic assumptions in the budget too, which a lot of people are also seeing that even on the surface, this is counterproductive. At a time when the nation is ravaged by flood, the the production capacity of for agricultural products have completely been wiped out. Disrupted. Then it is at that same time that the president has announced a 100 import duty on importation of rice. At a time when you cannot talk of local production. Although the president also talked about some kind of improved seedling, some seedlings that will be flood resistance and all of that. A lot of people say that, oh no, that will gel. What's
let me get a little bit historical. You see, a lot of people do not know that at one time, when the regions were on, we didn't have any federal ministry of agriculture. We actually now had regional research centers, okay, that were now, bringing out the seedlings that the regional agricultural products were running on. Now, you are very right, because your question is the answer. You have a system where, right now, we have not even entered into the new year.
Yes.
The prices of food, are out of the roof. Everywhere. If you go to the southeast now, I hear 3 cups of garri is about 100 naira, and it is rising every day. And that's why I'm saying to you that the first thing we should be looking at is not the budget projections, but what they have used, on what basis they have now used in now developing this budget, and what could have been done better. Because first and foremost, let's take it from here. I stand to be corrected that in the past 2-3 years we have been importing seedlings. Do we need to be doing that? And at this last year, I think there was a shortfall, please confirm this, of over 8,000 metric tons of seedlings. And these were import driven. So the hybrid seeds that the government is talking about giving to farmers, have we been able to go and do soil tests? My brother, we are talking about that we have 3 other issues that nobody has mentioned here. There's what they call saline intrusion. You had the lead poisoning. The sand, a lot of this sand that had now, gotten out of those places that poisoned the areas could have been in Bayelsa somewhere now, as we speak. Have we been able to now even do a soil testing? Have we been able to now even now know what will happen when the soils? Do we even have a program of when this, flooding will stop? Because as we speak now, as of today, I think Nembe in Bayelsa State is getting flooded.
And it's been raining all day in Lagos.
And there are going to be more releases from the dams. So you see what it is we need to be talking about. That's what I said to you, that for me, I think, let me say this. President Jonathan is only a human being, and I think sincerely his body language, he means well. But having said that, he also needs what you can call good frameworks to be able to now pursue this vision of Nigeria. It's not enough to want to feel this passion. I think what is very, very important and germane is that we're able to now create the structures, create the platforms, create instruments that can actually now make us begin to now operate our nation, as a country. And the first and most important instrument that we need right now as we speak is data. I would have been more comfortable if the president had set up a technical data. And this technical data will just have only 2 assignments. First and foremost, let us be able to now do soil water sample all across where this flood went to. The second assignment is, let us be able, as I mentioned here the last time I came here, to be able to now engage into what we call geospatial georeferencing. Let us be able to now mark these flood areas and delineate them properly, so that when we now know what can happen, what should happen, where can be flooded, so what GIS can be able to give you this information. What if you go and carry those hybrid seeds, put into where you think you have your highlands, and the next time they release water from Niger, it's gone? What do you do?
The House concluded the first round of debate. They've passed the budget now for second reading, which means it's going to committee work now. The different committees will be doing the oversight now, maybe meeting with the ministries and all of that. Hopefully, by the end of November, the National Assembly should be through with their work on it. And then
they say they're not robots, so they'll take their time.
Oh, they take their time. Okay. Your final comment. That's sharing news.
Yes, my final comment is that I think we are in a state of war in Nigeria. What I would advise the federal government to do is that there's what they call statutory allocations in the budgeting system. It's just unfortunate we didn't have time to go into all that.
Yeah.
And there are some
yes,
and there are some other institutions. I mean, there are about 5 or 6 institutions. We should be able to allocate some bulk monies to a program that will be able to get us ready for the rough times that we're going to be facing in 2013. This is very germane.
Thank you so much. We'll leave it there until next week. I can assure you that we'll have so much time to attend to discuss this information. Thank you
Yeah.
so very much. Dr. Emeka Okengwu has also joined us for discussions this morning. He's a development and management consultant as well. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.